These aren't just lines of text. These are secret messages that started world wars and destroyed empires. One of these codes was so powerful it dragged an entire country into a global war. Another was a machine that held the fate of millions of people in its gears. I'm about to show you the 5 codes that completely rewrote history. You will not believe how they did it. For all of human history, people have sent secret messages. But what if I told you some of those secrets literally changed the world? These aren't just puzzles. They are the keys that unlocked history's biggest moments. And today we're counting down the 5 most important codes ever. We're going from secret government offices straight to the front lines of the biggest wars ever fought to show you the codes that decided our fate. Our first story kicks off in 1917. World War I had been raging for 3 years, and the United States was trying to stay out of it. President Woodrow Wilson even won his election with the slogan, "He kept us out of war." But Germany was getting desperate. They made a massive gamble and went back to sinking any ship they saw, even civilian ones, to try and starve Great Britain. They knew this would make the United States furious. So, to deal with the angry Americans, German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann sent a top-secret message to his ambassador in Mexico. The plan was insane. If the U.S. declared war on Germany, Germany would help Mexico take back Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. It was a crazy plan to keep America busy fighting on its own turf. The Germans sent the message in a super complex code they thought was completely unbreakable. But they made one of the biggest mistakes in history. They sent it over public telegraph lines that the British had secretly tapped. A team of British codebreakers in a secret office called Room 40 got the message, and after a few weeks, cracked the whole thing. When they showed the telegram to President Wilson, it was like a bomb went off. At first, Americans thought it was a fake, a trick by the British to get them into the war. But then, in a crazy twist, Arthur Zimmermann himself admitted in public that he sent the message. The backlash was insane. Public opinion completely flipped. Combined with Germany sinking their ships, this telegram was the final straw that pushed the U.S. Congress to declare war on April 6, 1917. A single decoded message helped drag an entire nation into World War I. Next, we're going back to a time when the world felt huge and disconnected. Before the 1840s, sending a message across the country could take weeks. But one inventor, Samuel Morse, changed everything. He didn't just invent the telegraph, he invented its language. And Morse code is pure genius. Every letter and number is just a series of short and long sounds, dots and dashes. That's it. It could be sent as electrical pulses, clicks, or even flashes of light, and it could travel hundreds of miles in a split second. The first official message Morse ever sent was, "What hath God wrought?" And it really had created a new world. News that used to take weeks to cross the ocean now took minutes. But the biggest impact it had was on war. For the first time ever during the American Civil War, commanders could give orders to armies miles away almost instantly. By World War I and II, Morse code was everything. Ships used it to report enemy attacks, and armies laid thousands of miles of wire to connect the front lines to headquarters. It was so simple and reliable that it became essential. Other, more complicated codes came and went, but the simple language of dots and dashes literally laid the foundation for the instant communication we all use today. Now let's jump to the middle of World War II. American forces in the Pacific had a huge problem. The Japanese were masters at intercepting their radio messages. Every time they sent an order, they risked the enemy listening in. They needed a code that was fast, secure, and absolutely unbreakable. The solution came from the most unexpected place, the Navajo Nation. A World War I veteran named Philip Johnston, who had grown up on a Navajo reservation, suggested they use the Navajo language for a code. The language is insanely complex, with sounds and grammar unlike anything else in the world, and it wasn't even a written language at the time. To anyone who didn't grow up speaking it, it was impossible to understand. So the Marines recruited 29 Navajo men to create the ultimate code. And it wasn't just speaking Navajo. They created a code inside the language. First, they made a dictionary of military words. A submarine became besh lo, which means iron fish. A dive bomber was genie, or chicken hawk. For any words that weren't on the list, they created a phonetic alphabet. The word for ant, walachi, stood for A. Bear, shush, stood for B, and so on. It was a 200 IQ play. Even if a Japanese spy somehow knew how to speak Navajo, the messages would just sound like complete nonsense. And it was unbelievably fast. A message that took a coding machine 30 minutes to prepare and send could be sent and understood by the code talkers in just 20 seconds. Over 400 Navajo Code Talkers became one of the most powerful weapons in the war. At the Battle of Iwo Jima, they sent over 800 messages in the first 2 days without a single mistake. One signal officer, Major Howard Connor, later said, "Were it not for the Navajos, the Marines would never have taken Iwo Jima." This code was never broken. But their work was so top secret that it was classified until 1968, and these heroes didn't get the credit they deserved for decades. While the Code Talkers were winning the war in the Pacific, a different secret war was being fought in Europe. This was the world of the Special Operations Executive, or SOE, Britain's spy agency, whose only job was to set Europe ablaze. They would drop spies behind enemy lines to cause chaos and send back secrets. But these spies had a huge problem. How do you send a secret message when you're always on the run, with the enemy everywhere, and you can't carry a heavy code machine? The code had to be something you could hide in your brain. The solution? Poems. It was simple, but genius. A spy and their boss back in London would memorize the exact same poem. To send a message, the spy would use the poem to scramble the letters of their real message. Since it was all memorized, there was no code book for the enemy to find if they got captured. At first, they used famous poems everyone knew. Big mistake. The German code breakers were smart and also knew those poems, so they cracked the codes easily. The life expectancy of a radio operator was just 6 weeks. It was terrifying. So, the head of SOE codes, a genius named Leo Marx, started writing completely original poems for his agents. He made them memorable and emotional so they would stick in your head under pressure. He also started printing codes on silk so they could be sewn into clothing. These small, smart ideas were a lifeline that let spies report on German troop movements and set up ambushes, connecting them to London with just a fragile thread of words. And now for our final code, the most famous and important one of them all, the Enigma. This wasn't a poem or a language, it was a machine. A crazy-looking electromechanical machine used by Nazi Germany for almost all of their secret military communications in World War II. The Enigma looked like a typewriter, but inside, it had a system of spinning rotors and a plug board that scrambled letters. With changing every single day, the number of possible combinations was in the trillions. The Germans were 100% sure that Enigma was unbreakable. They were wrong. The mission to crack Enigma started in Poland, where a team of incredible mathematicians made the first big breakthroughs, even building their own Enigma machines. Right before the war started, they gave all of their research to the British. That research became the foundation for the legendary work done at Bletchley, Britain's top-secret code-breaking facility. This is where geniuses like Alan Turing built the bomb, a giant machine designed to do one thing: find the Enigma key every single day. The secrets they got from cracking Enigma were codenamed Ultra, and it was the most valuable intelligence of the entire war. Ultra let the Allies see everything. They knew where German U-boats were hiding in the Atlantic. They knew about German battle plans and when they were running low on supplies. It was critical for winning the Battle of the Atlantic, the war in North Africa, and for planning the D-Day invasion. Historians estimate that cracking Enigma shortened the war in Europe by at least 2 years and saved millions of lives. It was an unbelievable achievement that gave the Allies the ultimate advantage. It proved that the most powerful weapon in a war isn't a bomb, it's being able to read your enemy's mind. From a single telegram that pushed a nation to war, to a machine with the secrets to an entire empire, these 5 codes did way more than just hide things. They literally changed history. They shifted power, won battles, and connected the entire planet. They prove that behind all the biggest events in history, there are secret messages that once you crack them, change the future for all of us. Out of these 5, which code do you think was the most important? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.